Welcome to She's a Full-On Monet, a digital lifestyle magazine for women. Every week, our editor-in-chief, Kelly Castillo, along with Megan Block and special guests, participate in a deep dive discussion about recent articles and topics we have covered. We invite you to become part of our community where everyone's welcome. You can totally sit with us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to She's a Full-On Monet. I believe this is episode 27. I'm your host, Kelly, and I'm here with Megan, as always.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I can't believe we're on 27, but at the same time, feels like we've been doing this for a while now. So.
Yeah, more than half a year now. So
Yep.
We're practically experts. I don't know. Maybe that's too much.
Yeah.
So we just finished Halloween, which means we are officially in the holiday season. Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and then it will be Christmas time and the madness that ensues. So we thought today we would talk about something that is something I think everyone probably listening can relate to this. Especially, I think this is hardest for moms, parents in general. But we are going to talk about the holiday stress that we all feel and how to kind of circumvent that a little bit, how to continue to make time for yourself during what is probably the craziest time of the year, and how to avoid some of the most common triggers of that stress. So I think this is a good conversation. We could probably talk about this all day.
Yeah, we'll be here for 8 hours, everybody. I hope you're comfortable because we're going to tackle a doozy today.
Yeah.
It's a lot. You could talk about it for a while.
Yeah.
You know.
So I don't know what the holidays were like for you, Megan, growing up, but like for me, I have a lot of memories, and I was raised by a single dad. I know I've said that on here before, but for anyone new that's listening, and I mean, he did like the most at the holidays. We always had so many presents. I mean, it was ridiculous. Under our tree, our whole living room would be full of presents. And we went to the tree farm and cut down our own massive Christmas tree and brought it home. And then we had, every year we would get an ornament that signified something special to us that year. Usually there were Hallmark ornaments. That used to be a big thing when I was being raised in the 70s and 80s. Hallmark was the place where you went to get your ornaments. So we would each get an ornament of something significant that year and hang it on the tree. And we, developed quite a collection of ornaments that had so many memories attached to them. And all the ornaments that we made in school, that were like sad little photo frame, popsicle stick photo frames and things like that, puffball, snowmen, things that they always went on the tree. So our tree wasn't like aesthetically the most beautiful, but it meant a lot to us. And we would spend Christmas Day just opening up 80 gazillion presents, it felt like. And then, obviously immediately calling our friends and comparing what everyone got and talking about it and being excited and my dad would like construct whatever we bought, Barbie dream house or a bike or whatever. I don't even know. And, we usually spent Christmas Eve going to look at Christmas lights. There was a lot of neighborhoods in the town where I grew up where the Christmas lights were like to the extreme. So we would go look at Christmas lights. We spent a lot of time with my grandmother, and I come from a small family, but like we did Christmas pretty big. So holidays in general to me have always been a big deal. I'm huge on birthdays. I'm big on Christmas. I don't consider myself really what most people would label as Christian. Like I don't go to church. I didn't raise my kids that way. But I'm spiritual and I do love Christmas. I love the feeling of Christmas. I love the values of Christmas. I love what it means for people in general and how people seem to be just, nicer, more giving, more charitable that time of year. So Christmas is one of my favorite times of year, but it can be a lot.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I actually haven't thought about how I grew up in a really long time, but my mom was a teacher and she got the 2 weeks off because teachers get it off. And that's where I get it from. She was just Mrs. Christmas. She we had a nice big house with 2 stories and she would decorate the banisters and with garland. And here's the thing is she would decorate the house so extravagantly, but there was no way we could help her. And I got to a certain age where I was able to help her, but it had to be done her way. which kind of bugged me. But when it came to the tree, mine was very similar. We got Hallmark ornaments. We got to pick a new one every year. And it was also mixed with, some of the horrible things that we made in school, and as well as my mom and dad. So there wasn't a theme on the tree other than just a collection of love, which I absolutely loved. But we would host Christmas. So my mom would just go all out because she would also know she was going to have my grandparents and my aunt and uncle over. Christmas Day was spent similar to you, just like, opening presents and eating food. Christmas Eve, I did grow up in a more religious based household where my mom and dad really wanted us to know the true meaning of Christmas, I guess, as they would say.
Yeah.
Where we would hear the story of the Christmas story. And when we were young, we would spend Christmas Eve going to candlelight service, which my brother and I dug, because basically candlelight service is the story of Christmas with some more religious based Christmas music and like a candle, which is, when you're a kid, that's super cool. So, and we got to go to church at night, which I thought was really fun. So we would always spend Christmas Eve going to church and then coming home and reading the nightmare, the night before Christmas and the Christmas story, and then going to bed and like waiting to hear Santa, so it's I think everyone does that type of thing where I always envied my friends who got to open like a present on Christmas Eve or something like that. I was like, why not one? Like, I know there's something back there, but I mean, Christmas Day would spend it's like a 6-hour marathon opening all those gifts. I'm like, why not just throw me one? You're not going to miss it,
Yeah.
I love Christmas so much. And that's why I go all out with Christmas too. And my kids, I mean, I decorate to the nines, but the one thing I did is I let my girls help, because I see the joy in their eyes, and I always wanted to help and let them experience that. So, we have multiple trees and it's decorated everywhere, and they love Christmas just as much as me. It's just like the best time of year, but it's also such a stressful time because I feel like we all have this, this like idea of what it's going to be in our heads going in. And sometimes the time doesn't allow for that, or, things happen and it stresses us out. And then it takes actual joy from all of it, whether it's overbooking yourself or overshooting what your expectations are going to be. Sometimes it can turn from what should be joyous to like super stressful. So,
yeah. And that's one of the things that we want to talk about today is, I think as parents, we spend so much time trying to create the magic of the holidays for our kids, because we want them to have these beautiful memories of family holidays together. And we focus on the joy that we want them to feel, the holiday joy, but we don't, count ourselves in that equation. And we don't really allow for what brings us joy at that time of the year. A lot of times we do things out of habit or obligation that make it more stressful for us. And it all cycles back, right? Because then we're snappy, we're, tired, whatever. And we don't realize the impact that can also have on our kids and the joy that they're, feeling. So it's a really hard balancing act. But I think it can be done. I think you just have to kind of give yourself a break at this time of year.
Yeah, I think if you really look at what because it's a hodgepodge of like old traditions, new traditions, and then like the random things that pop up, right? Like you have the things that you did as a kid and you want to pass those down to your kids. Then you have these new traditions that maybe your spouse is bringing into the mix, or I come from, my husband celebrates Hanukkah. So I try and highlight both, even though it's not like that big of a deal to him. I want them to know both. So it's just added stuff. You now have this wonderful thing that we didn't have as a kid called Elf on a Shelf. Oh my gosh, take me out back and shoot me. I hate it so much. My mom and dad did not have to deal with Elf on a Shelf. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but for anyone who's not familiar with Elf on a Shelf, the elf comes to visit, if you choose to partake in this tradition, comes December 1st, and it does various shenanigans and moves until Christmas Eve when it goes away. And it used to be just move the elf. But now, thanks to things like TikTok and Pinterest and stuff, now there has to be like a backstory. And it's so much extra work. I kid you not. I've woken up at like 2 a.m. multiple times freaking out because the elf hasn't moved. Because if the elf doesn't move, you're basically telling your kids magic doesn't exist at that point.
Yeah.
So there's new traditions being put in the mix. There's like, there's that feeling like you need to go see Santa, that you need to go to the tree lot, that you need to get the family photos, that you need to buy all the food that you need. Like, it's just so overwhelming going in that, like, screw trying to have fun, or be spontaneous during this time of year.
I, as a parent, put so much pressure on myself to check all the boxes of like, my Christmas bingo card or whatever for the kids to make sure that they got to do every magical experience that there is. But when I look back on my own childhood Christmases, we didn't go ice skating at an ice rink.
No,
we didn't go to Disneyland every Christmas. We didn't go we did go to the tree lot and pick out our tree, but we didn't go, and we went caroling sometimes. My dad would have an office.
I miss that tradition.
Yeah,
that's a good time.
He had an office holiday party every year, and then after the party, everyone would go caroling in the neighborhood. But I mean, we didn't do a lot of, there was no like elf on the shelf, like you're saying. We didn't have to try to fit in church. I have zero pictures of me sitting on Santa's lap. I don't think I ever did that.
No way. Oh my gosh. If I felt weird during the pandemic that like I didn't have that option. I was like, what? It's not Christmas if there's not an awkward photo on Santa's lap. That's funny.
And I can tell you that my family growing up never once sent out one of those letters with all of our accomplishments or a holiday card with a picture of the whole family in matching outfits on a beach somewhere. We never did that either. But my Christmas was still magical to me as a kid. I loved it.
Social media didn't exist back then. There's such the pressure to do that now that even if you're not wired to think you should do it, you feel like you should be maybe not the update, because now we have social media. So now everyone knows what you're up to and what your kids did last week. But that like picture perfect updated photo of your family all in coordinated outfits, like done in October at this point so that people can see it now. I have a photographer friend and she's literally done with holiday shoots because like it's already been done. You've had to have already done it by now too. The craziness starts even earlier now. But there's this pressure because of social media trying to keep up, and not only keep up, but like blow people away is so there, and it's almost an image thing, and it sucks.
And we get sold this idea that we're doing our kids a disservice if we don't check every single box on the list. And first of all, I know for a fact that's not true. And second of all, we have to give ourselves a break. It's impossible to do every single thing. And I think as women over the last 50 years, our role has changed a lot. We were traditionally like stay at home moms and wives. And then we added the working element in the 60s and 70s. And that put a whole new list of pressures on women where they had to fit all the same tasks they were doing before into off work hours. And we didn't really see the balance of the workload between men and women shift at that time. It's just starting to get there now, but I mean, still women do the most of the childcare, the most of the cooking and cleaning around the house. I'm glad to see that like my kids' generation is looking at that differently and distributing that workload differently. I love to see that, but I think the time that's the most hard to balance is the holidays.
Yes.
And
because
if like
kids are home for 2 weeks sometimes too, and you're trying to get stuff done. It's like, it's craziness, it's
impossible. It's impossible to do this successfully.
So how do you resolve that? What are some tips? I strongly
cancel Christmas.
Right. Cancel culture. I suggest for me, because I find this pressure oddly enough, and I know some people can relate. I find this pressure not as hard, but I still find this pressure during the Halloween season. There's so many options now and so many things to do. You have to get your costume in July at this point if you want to have any luck finding it. I literally wrote things down and decided, like, is this important? I figured out that pumpkin patches are BS and I do not need them. We do not buy pumpkins at the pumpkin patch because they're $30 there and they're $3 at Trader Joe's.
It's a photo op.
It's the photo op. My kids hate it. They yell at me for wearing something plaid in 80-degree weather and dragging them to the pumpkin patch because they know I'm going to say no to every bounce house, but I'm going to force them to take 50 photos. So I decided not to do it this year. Why bother? It freed up one Saturday, but that Saturday was glorious because it made room for other things that even if it was just sake of not having anything, because those weeks were crazy. I suggest really seeing, okay, what do I have in my head that I feel like I have to do? Write them down and then really take a look at them and decide, why am I doing them? Who is it serving? Is it really bringing genuine joy, or is it to please people or somebody's opinion of me that doesn't really matter? You know?
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. If you have a high level of stress and anxiety during the holidays, thanks from Halloween to Christmas, and this year you want to do things differently, I would agree with you 100% that the first step is to make a list of all the things that you typically are responsible for, you personally are responsible for during that season, and reevaluate them one by one.
You're going to see that it's literally impossible to do all those things. You're literally setting yourself up for failure. So you might as well go through and decide, is this really important? Or would I rather replace it with something different this year or not do anything at all? You know?
Yeah. There are some things that you can't not do. Like, my husband owns his own business. And so one of the things that we have to do is go to clients' holidays parties. And they can get numerous, and we have to send out corporate Christmas cards and gift baskets to our clients. And that's thousands of people.
There's
and
inevitable things for sure.
Yeah. So I can't cross those off the list, but, do this. I've already told my kids this year. Now, granted, my kids are adults, and, the youngest is 19. My oldest is 27. I have already told them this year that we're not doing the 5-hour Christmas present opening scenario because they live in their own houses and apartments now. They don't have as much space for all the cluttery crap that they get at holidays, and they have different priorities. So I'm going to do a financial gift to them and then just a couple of presents for them to open.
Yeah. I think that's good anyway, because it takes the pressure off of, a lot of people are stressing because of the lack of goods that are out there right now to get. If you just take the pressure off and, buy an experience, a family experience, put that money towards something different. If you don't have kids.
Yeah. If you're in a different financial position, one of the biggest stresses during the holidays is financial. A lot of people feel that they really have to, I know for me, that was the worst when my kids were small, because I didn't want them to have a less Christmas than anyone else. That
like
they
an
knew.
Empty looking tree, you
Or
don't want them to be underwhelmed.
Sad amount of presents under the tree. Like, I wanted to fulfill their wish list and really make them have Christmas magic. But at the time when my kids were small, that financially for me was really hard to pull off. I was literally like, oh, okay, I'm not paying this very important bill this month so I can buy Christmas presents, and borrowing from Peter to pay Paul kind of thing, maxing out credit cards, which I knew was going to cause me stress for months afterwards.
Right. I do that too. And I'm like, I'll figure it out later. We all do that. We'll figure it out later. It's not good.
And if I ask my kids, like, they probably don't even remember most of those presents that I stressed over finding for them. Or if there's some hot present that your kid has on their list, like a Tickle Me Elmo, remember that year? Holy Jesus. Finding a Tickle Me Elmo that year, I wanted to die. But that
I remember that. And I remember buying it after the hype was over, just because I remember it being such a cool gift, and Emma could care less about that Tickle Me Elmo. I was like, oh, you like Elmo, you'll like this. She's like, I'm like,
no, it was creepy. And I don't know why it was such a big deal.
Whatever hot item is, I don't even know. My kids, see, I live in a world where we don't have the regular TV. We have like the smart TV. So we miss all commercials. So I can't tell you what the hot gift is unless like they know, which they don't.
When I was a kid, before Thanksgiving, we would get the Sears catalog in the mail.
Oh yeah, like the Toys R Us big book,
and the Toys R Us big book, we got that too. And there was a Sears near us and a Toys R Us, so we would fold the corners down and circle and write our initials
That
Nice
was
and
like,
dry.
if it's in Sharpie and it's circled or double circled, and
Yeah.
I've also pointed it out to you, this is
Yeah.
like a given at this point. This better be under the tree.
Right.
I
It was
remember
such a
that
big
was like,
deal.
it was the closest to like free shopping we got as children. We were like, yes, I want that. I want that. I had like 100 things circled. It was so unrealistic. My mom and dad were like, yeah, you're going to need to like color code it for importance because you're not getting all of this. Oh no, that's not how this works. My kids still like, if I get randomly one in the mail and like Target has those, they'll like, it's so fun to still go through and like circle, this is what I want. This is what I want. Cause it's like, how else are you going to know? You know, writing a letter to Santa sometimes does not secure it.
Right.
You know?
And I mean, you need to look at your list of things that you typically take responsibility for during the holidays, and you can ask yourself what we just
Color
said.
code it.
How important is this
What's
item?
priority A?
Will we be missing out on something really pivotal if this is gone? Or can I give this responsibility to someone else? You know,
divide and conquer. I need to hit stop on record really quick because I just need to go plug in the computer. It's at
Okay.
8%. I don't
Okay.
want to like randomly lose you. So we'll stop
Yeah.
right now and come right back. Oh no.
I would say that if your kids are not babies or toddlers, there are probably some things that they can help with. And sometimes having them help is worse, but you can delegate
like
some
gift
things.
wrapping.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
But helping get the house cleaned up for guests or cooking, things like that. If there are really magical moments for you that you don't want to cut out, by all means, you know, do those things. But give yourself permission not to do some things that you're only doing because you see other people doing them and you feel like it's a must.
You're pushing tradition onto your kids when you let them participate, you know, like when you allow them to help you make whatever traditional Christmas dish you're making, or you're overstressing about that gift wrap being perfect, they're going to remember that they weren't allowed to help. They are not, you know, and so like relinquish some control a little bit. Coming from someone who's crazy type A control freak, like I hate relinquishing control because what if it doesn't come out nice? You know, you can't do it all by yourself. Like I remember Christmas Eve last year, I was stressing and I had to let my husband help me gift wrap. And it was awful looking, but I was like, well, it's either that or it's not wrapped. So like, just allow yourself to relinquish some control is always a really great first step if you have a problem relinquishing control, especially around the holidays, because you want to feel like you can do everything and you want it to come out exactly how you envisioned. And I mean, some of it will, but some of it won't, you know?
Agreed. And if you have kids at home that are of age to help, think about this. Like if you were to decorate the entire tree after they go to bed at night, and then the next morning they wake up and there's a perfect tree in the house, they're not building that memory. Or if you don't want them to help make the meal and you typically cook the entire day and serve this really elaborate meal, if they haven't spent the day with you, they're not building any memories. You might as well order the meal from the grocery store pre-cooked.
They're not remembering the meal. They're going to remember that mom was in the kitchen all day and she
and probably
at all,
probably cussing and probably mad or drinking
stressing.
wine.
Yeah, stressing. And so if you want to do it all, I guess you can like do it late at night and not sleep. You know, I know some people that do that, you know, that are like, try and just do it after their kids go to bed or whatever. But even then you deserve a break. You know, that's the only way to recover and be 100% throughout. This is like a marathon. Okay. Like, I'm sorry. November 1st apparently is Christmas time now. Thanksgiving apparently just disappeared. So November 1st, all the way to December 24th, 25th, if you count the day of, that is a marathon of a situation. You cannot like go hard, you know, every day and not sleep and not take care of yourself.
For 2
months.
How
you get sick. That's how you don't eat well. That's how you like self-love this holiday season, you know, like cut some stuff out. Who cares, you know?
Right. And I'm going to say this, but I understand that this is not an easy answer for a lot of people. If you generally are the one responsible for everything in your home and you have a partner, you guys should be a team. They should absolutely be helping you. That being said, relationship dynamics are already hard. if you add a holiday stress to it, holidays can be one of the most stressful times on marriages and relationships. And a lot of people go through depression and things like that during the holidays. It can be a really heavy time, not just because you're involving also families and in-laws and relatives you maybe only see once or twice a year.
Traveling, scheduling,
scheduling,
all this stuff.
Yes, that's usually the time of year where a lot of companies do their employee reviews and raises or bonuses. So there's a lot of added career pressure at this time also. So I just want to say, in a perfect world, everyone who has a partner would be part of a team and you guys would be sharing the workload. If that's not the case, that may be something that is worth discussing. You got to use your best judgment if the holidays are the right time to discuss that, because that's a bigger issue. And this can make the already stressful time even more stressful. So I understand if this is a long-standing thing in your relationship and the holidays are not the right time to confront that. I get it. Completely get it.
You though, like I coming from someone who's a control freak, I see my husband, like my husband would gladly help more, but I don't really allow him to help, and when I do give him jobs, he happily helps. But take it from me, your partner would rather see a happy, healthy you than a perfect anything else. And they will gladly help if you let them help. You just have to ask for help, because the other option of you being stressed out and freaked out all the time is not what they want either. So
yeah. And I have a partner who doesn't help. And really, I mean,
would he help if you asked him though?
No.
Oh,
no.
So that might not be everybody. I mean, like maybe they don't help him again. Maybe now and during the holiday season is not the time. But if going in, it's going to be something. Honestly, you should be.
In his defense, no, he does not help, and he probably will never help, and that's just the way that it is. But he is more than happy to provide resources for me if I need help. I have a fantastic assistant who I don't have to worry financially about paying her salary. And I couldn't do what I do without her. Yeah. And when we've been going through like big projects in the house or a period of time where there's a lot going on, I have, without even needing to consult, I've hired a second assistant, got through those rough periods and come out the other side without tension. So it's a different dynamic.
That is help though.
It's help.
If that wasn't an option, and he saw you stressed out, he loves you enough to, if he needed to, probably would actually provide help, whatever that is, because that's really bottom line what that is.
Right.
He would not want to see you stressed out, crying, yelling, like unhappy, not eating, not sleeping, all for the sake of him not having to wrap some gifts. Or
absolutely not. No, but he tends to help more with the resources to be able to find. I can take all my gifts and have them professionally wrapped if that's what I want to do, and he wouldn't say anything about the bill. But if I asked him to wrap, he'd be like, are you kidding me? Yeah. But that's help too. I'm not discounting.
It is help. It's a different form of help. But at the end of the day, whatever your financial situation is, your partner would rather see you healthy mentally and emotionally than not be bothered with the asking of the help. So
right. So now
talk about it if you need to.
Now that we are in the early part of November, now is a great time to have a conversation about expectations, not just with your partner, but also with your work situation, with your children, if they're of the right age to do this. Expectations about, okay, this year for the holidays, how many times are we going to see family? Are we going to do? How many Christmases are we going to do?
Maybe you're on a one income household and your children need to know ahead of time, hey guys, Christmas is going to look a little different this year. Mm-hmm. Don't stress yourself out by putting yourself in debt because they have this vision and you don't want to like destroy Christmas for them. I promise you, there are other ways to make it magical where you don't have to like put yourself in debt for the sake of it, because there are a lot of families right now that are still really stressing and they don't know how they're going to handle this Christmas, just like last Christmas. And they're like, then they're totally prepared to put themselves in debt to get through this season,
Right. And a lot of industries do slow down the time between mid-December and New Year's. That's a great time if you have paid time off to take some time off. to not try to balance so many things on your plate. And it's a good time to have a conversation about expectations with extended family members. Like to say, you know what, I know in past years you've stayed at our house for the holidays. And you know, but you can blame whatever you want to for it, whether it's COVID or work or the kids or whatever, but say, you know, we were thinking this year, maybe we'd start a tradition of alternating. You can stay at, you know, Susie's house this year, and next year you can come back to ours. And because everyone wants your company, we want to enjoy your company and take turns. Like however nicely you can say it, setting expectations with family members, because I know extended family that you don't see that often. We talked about this last episode, can be a big stressor for the holidays. Yeah. A big stressor. And
because you're not close enough to them to tell them what's really going on in your personal life, and you don't want to disappoint anyone. So find a fancy way to like find a way around it, you know, because you don't need that right now.
Right. Or traveling. If you've got, you and your partner have families on other sides of the country and everyone expects you to travel to them. It's okay to say, you know what, this year that's just not feasible for us. What we'd love is to have both of you guys come this way. You know, if it's a financial situation, offer to split costs or whatever, I don't know, but having that conversation early will prevent a lot of stress for sure. And setting the kids' expectations, you know, this year we're not going to do XYZ. And instead we're going to spend family time doing this other thing. Like maybe you feel like you have to do a massive cookie baking, cookie decorating day. And there's
a lot of pressure from parents of young ones right now coming out of the pandemic that we all have to like, not just go back to normal, but almost like make up for the last couple of years and stuff because it's available, you know? So yeah, like don't.
One thing my family has, I mean, I never did it growing up and we still don't do it to this day, even though I probably get 50 of these in the mail during December, are the holiday cards with the photo of the family on the front. Now we don't do it because ever since my kids were pretty young, we've been in a blended family or a split family. And in my mind, having a family photo that doesn't include everyone feels a little disrespectful. So we don't do a family photo. And I mean, between us, there are 7 kids, 3 grandkids. Can you imagine? The family photo would have to be a panoramic, like, I don't even know.
Like a drone shot from like the sky.
Right. And then there are ex-spouses who are the parents of those children. It just feels weird that everyone isn't included and I don't want anyone to feel awkward or anyone, you know, to hurt anyone's feelings. So we don't do that. We do, you know, love to entertain during the holidays. We love to catch people up on what's going on, but you can do things in whatever way works for you. And if you have a tradition,
if you're doing it because you truly love these updated photos of your family, great, fantastic. If you're doing it to keep up with so-and-so down the street, freaking forget about it this year and watch yourself be like way happier because you just were like, screw it. You
and
know?
like you said about the Halloween, the pumpkin patch thing, if you have a tradition that you've been doing automatically, kind of on autopilot,
without even thinking about it, why am I doing this? Yeah.
And it causes friction and stress and arguments. Just let it go.
Don't
let it go.
Don't. Find an interesting alternative that actually makes sense. We actually went on a pumpkin scavenger hunt in downtown Disney. That was like, the kids were happier because they were doing stuff. I didn't have to say no. We didn't take any photos. It was just fun and everybody got food after. And it was actually probably cheaper than going to a pumpkin patch. So either don't do it or find an alternative that makes sense. You don't have to do something because you've always done it or because your mom and dad had you do it. You know, like if it doesn't make sense, don't do it. You know?
Right, exactly. I think we also need to look at what makes us personally feel like into the holiday spirit. So for me, I love switching my car radio station to the holiday songs. I always do it like usually the week after Thanksgiving.
I've been checking and stalking that station since November 1st. I'm like, is it now? Is it? Because people get crazy early. I love it.
I love it. I love holiday music. I love the Hallmark holiday movies.
No.
I think they're so funny.
No, I don't think I've ever seen one.
You know what's great
so
though?
Bad.
You can start watching them right from the middle and you still know exactly what's going on.
I think that's why, but I'm a sucker for those like Santa Claus movies. Like I the cheesy Christmas movies, but I won't do Hallmark. They're just so, like you said, like you don't even have to watch 99% of it. And I can
No,
tell
and you know exactly what's
what
going
happened.
on. Yeah. And
she ends up with him.
Yeah.
Under the Christmas tree.
Yes. Every
Snow.
year. Always.
Every year.
Always. You know, all of my kids and all of our family members have a different favorite holiday movie. So we do the rounds. Everyone gets to
fun. Yeah,
have a movie night with their movie. I love decorating the Christmas tree with my family. I don't love cooking Christmas dinner, so I generally don't do it. We usually order from like Honey Baked Ham or someplace like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll do a mix of some things I make from scratch and some things I buy pre-made. And I give myself permission to do that. And I don't feel bad about it at all.
No.
I don't love all the corporate holiday parties. So we tend to like make an appearance, say hello to the host, walk around a bit, and then we duck out. We don't feel like we have to stay late at every single one. I need my sleep. And, you know, we appreciate that, like getting invited and going to people's holiday parties, because when we have parties, you know, we always stress, is anyone going to show up?
See, I'm in a different time. I'm like, whose party can I crash? Because I don't get invited anywhere. I have kids and I never get to leave. Dan has a holiday party coming up. And I'm like, I'm already thinking about, I'm like, yes, can't wait. Because that's like adult time. And I don't want to go back to like whatever I was wearing before, because this is the greatest I've looked all year long. So different time. I'm sure when my kids are grown and I've like gone out more, I'll hate it. But right now I'm like, holiday parties all the way. I think they're great.
Yeah. I love when my house smells like pine. So even though, you know, I am extremely allergic to Christmas trees. Yeah. We drape all the staircases in fresh pine. How do you get
away with this? How do you get away with, like, you just avoid banister?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Until they're dry. They can't have any sap on them or I will break out in hives. So
can you touch the ornaments on your tree or like adjust the ornaments without getting like
no, I have to wear gloves. I wear those kitchen gloves that go up to my elbows.
Oh, what a bummer. It's the sap.
That's a sap. The worst part is that I can't water the Christmas tree. And now that the kids don't live at home, like I have to find someone to help me water the tree, because it has to be watered like every other day or it dries out really fast. Mm-hmm. So that is the biggest, because I can't climb under the tree, like it would be crazy.
Oh my gosh, that's nuts. Anyway, that's crazy. Good for you. Because I know some people would just get the fake tree and put the sensicles on. They make it smell like pine and, you know, just give up.
My kids would revolt.
Bless you.
They would revolt. Yeah. We're in temporary housing right now because we're renovating. So I mentioned very casually to the kids, you know what, like you guys are spread all over right now. And we're not in our regular house. I don't have any of our Christmas decorations. What do you guys think about just having one of those companies come in and put the decorated tree up? Like they do that. Like there are nurseries and stuff that do that. And the kids were like, don't you dare. I was like, okay. All right. You guys are going to do it then, right?
You know what? If you had this conversation with your kids in their 30s, they would be fine with it, because in your 20s, you're still like holding on to that. But in your 30s, you kind of see it from your perspective and you're like, yeah, that's a lot of work. Whatever. We can skip this year. Like they would be more flexible, I feel, in their 30s.
I hope. I just found out
in my 20s, I would be that way.
I just found out this year that my kids are upset that I've stopped giving them Easter baskets. Like apparently they've had a conversation amongst themselves that they're upset that I no longer give them Easter baskets. My oldest is 27 years old. And I did very elaborate Easter baskets for the grandkids this year. And I didn't do them for the kids because the grandkids are small.
Children?
Small, all under 9. Yeah. Makes sense. No, they saw the fancy Easter baskets that I did.
Because as adult children's, we can't understand why you fill the stocking but not give the basket. It makes no sense. So you can be Santa, but not the bunny. Tell us why.
Okay.
That's what I told my dad in my 20s. In my 30s, when I had kids, I was like, why would mom get a basket as well as the children? To me, that is insanity, you know, but they don't have kids of their own yet. So they are the kids and you probably still fill their stockings up. So
I do. And they fill mine. They fill mine and Alex's, but we fill theirs.
There's still this like childhood. Yeah. But you also know that you're not you're not Santa, you're just filling each other's stockings up. But yeah, no, the Easter, because there's nothing else to look forward to on Easter except the basket. And they're like, well, bummer, I can't even like eat my problems today.
I'm hoping that when they start having kids of their own, you know, the focus kind of shifts.
Oh, it will 1000%. I don't even think about it anymore. But I remember a few Easters being kind of bummed at my dad that he didn't get us one. My dad's like, you're 28. What do you want from me? And I'm like, a basket filled with chocolate covered Peeps. I'm gonna have to buy it myself now at 50% off tomorrow at Target, like the rest of the adults. I want to be gifted by the bunny. Like, you know, yeah, no, I get it. Once they have kids, it will just feel weird to request it.
Yeah, I think so too.
You know,
I think the holidays are one of those times a year where self-care becomes absolutely essential to getting it through it. And it's the paradox, right? Because at the time of the year where you need to focus on self-care, you have the least amount of time to do so. But I think if you don't schedule time to continue whatever your like exercise routine is, to go for a walk, to take a hot bath, to do something that's re-energizing for yourself, this is really one of those, like, you can't pour from an empty cup type of situations. This time of year, your energy levels are totally depleted. Your emotional resources are depleted. There's a lot of emotion stuff that goes on during the holidays. If you lost someone, that's a really hard time. We both know how that goes. And if you're, you know, maybe divorced and you share custody and your kids have to go somewhere for the holiday, that can be really, really hard. So there's a lot of emotional stuff that comes up during the holidays. And I have to just say that it's really important to do self-care, because what happens when you don't is that you start leaning on other kind of comforting crutches, like, you know, having too much wine. There's free flowing alcohol everywhere at Christmas time. And that can be an issue. Or there's also like so many yummy things at Christmas time. So you can use those things kind of like as comforts, which is fine, but make sure that you're also taking care of yourself and that you're not relying just on that to get you through it. Because, you know, you might, when those New Year's resolutions hit, you might regret some of that.
Yeah. Or I mean, honestly, move your body for your mental health. I'm not even kidding you. If you do it for vanity reasons, you're like, oh, I'll take care of that in January. Like, no, don't show up whatever form of exercise you prefer, whether it's the gym or just going out and taking a walk or yoga or whatever that is. Do it for the mental clarity that you're providing yourself for this holiday season, because like the other stuff is filled with a ton of just fake stuff that's going to bring you up and then crash you, and you're going to feel good for a minute, but then you're going to feel really off balance. You know, I love the holiday themed coffees at this time of year. Like I can drink peppermint mochas for breakfast, lunch, and dinner if I could. But people will use that as actual food. Coffee is not food. Coffee is not a meal. And so they'll go on this fake energy and they'll be like whacked out. So just take care of yourself and make sure you're eating good foods and you're moving your body and you're getting enough sleep. If you just do those 3 things, you will be 70% better than you were last year, you know, because if you're going on fake energy and no sleep, it's just a ticking time bomb, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's so important. And it's hard to schedule time for that when we already feel like we don't have enough time to do the basics, but it's vital.
Yeah.
I also think, you know, kind of giving yourself a little bit of wiggle room as far as like giving yourself permission to have not everything be perfect.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Perfection is an illusion. It doesn't exist. When you're looking at other people's social media and stuff, you're seeing the highlight reel. I know you guys have heard all of this before, but you have to continually remind yourself of that at this time of year. All you're going to see are professional portraits of people's families and people decorating the tree. You don't see the screaming match that happened 5 minutes before that. You're going to see the homemade cookies. You're going to see the kids sitting on Santa's lap, and they're not crying, but your kid, you couldn't put him on his lap without him screaming his head off. Like, this is the comparison time of year. This is the really hard time of year to give yourself a little bit of grace. So switch off social media if that's what you need to do to get through it. Stop comparing yourself to other people and other people's, you know, fake perfection, because no one is perfect. Everybody's life is a mess. That's the whole idea of Monet, right? We're all a mess. We're here to talk about the mess. And so you have to just understand that this time of year, there's this huge pressure of perfection, and it's an illusion. It's not possible. It doesn't exist. You have to let that go. You really do.
Yeah, because it all reminds you, remember when you were a kid and social media wasn't even around then, and the joy, what were the things that really brought you joy? You know, was it having this picture perfect mantle, or was it, you know, spending time with mom and dad because mom and dad were home more in the during the holiday season? Like, really, it's about the time you spend and the people that you're around, and like none of the other stuff really truly matters if you really think about it. You know, it's hard, easier said than done. You know, you want to keep up with so and so. Some people, it's their job to do it. You know, to some people, there's a lot of bloggers out there. It's like what they do, and it's when they're feel the most pressure to succeed at what they do. But like, you can't do it all, you know?
Yeah, I think we have to remember, if you're a parent listening to this, and most of what we've talked about has been parent related. If you're a parent and you're listening to this, just remember that what you are doing during the holiday season is the example that your kids will learn from. So if things go wrong and you go with the flow and you make a fun thing out of it, and we all laugh and it's funny, and oh my gosh, we burnt the turkey, but like, look how it all turned out. You're teaching your kids to roll with the punches, to face adversity, to not be stuck on this idea of perfection. If they see you running yourself ragged to the point that you break, and Christmas morning you're yelling and nobody's having joy, that's not a great example. Or if they see you foregoing sleep and not taking care of yourself and just being a, you know, Christmas workhorse, that's also not a great example. So I think we need to think about what we're handing down beyond the magical traditions. We're also handing down some pretty important life lessons at this time of year. I will own this one, because my kids, if any of you know any of my kids, ask them for this story, because it's pretty not funny. You lose my temper very often. I'm a very even-tempered person. I have a really long fuse. It takes a really long time to get me riled up. But the kids remember one time when I lost my temper, and it was at the holidays. I think it was Christmas Eve or Christmas morning, and nobody would cooperate. Everyone wanted to sleep in. Nobody wanted to come and sit in front of the tree. I was trying to make hot chocolate from scratch because I'm freaking insane. Why? I was trying to like whisk milk and like shave chocolate to make some magical hot chocolate, when I could have just bought a Swiss Miss box and they wouldn't have cared. And I was trying to like have them come sit around the tree, and I had pastries laid out on platters, and I had fruit, and I was whisking the hot chocolate, and nobody would cooperate. And my son came like halfway down the stairs and was like, we want to stay in bed for half an hour more. Like, who cares what time we start Christmas? It's going to happen when it happens. And I had planned everything so meticulously, and I had Christmas music playing, and I had food laid out, and it wasn't happening the way that I wanted it to. And it had been a really stressful holiday season. We were having difficulties with my ex-husband, custody issues, things going on. And I just lost it. And I had like this plastic snowman plate from Big Lots or whatever that I was trying to lay, and I threw it. And that's the only time that my kids have ever seen me really lose it. Gabby's seen me lose it one other time, I'll be honest. She slammed her door, and I was like, I don't think so. But this was the only time, like, very unprovoked, way overreaction, my kids ever saw me like lose my shit. And it was Christmas. And so they still bring it up. Like, they don't talk about every year when everything was perfectly perfect.
Oh gosh. Watch that story change when they've had kids of their own, because as kids, we don't know the heaviness that is on our parents' shoulders during the holiday season. We see that and that explosion, and we think that is directly and only about us at that moment. We don't know that you're going through custody issues, that your parents are this and that. Like, I look back at my holiday seasons, and there is a time or two where everything was, like you said, my mom went to all of the extremes, and my brother and I were just like, in some way, like a very small F you. And it was just, she was just like, it was just done. She's done. And yeah, she's lost her temper before, but like, it was deeper than that. It was like, I pushed all of my personal shit aside to make magic for you, and you can't even show the F up even a little. Yeah, it's not even that. It was the mix of anger and extreme hurt at that point, because we don't as children know or understand, nor should we have to think about or understand the level of heaviness that is on our shoulders as adults and parents during that time, because we don't know.
And the thing is,
until we're parents and we're like,
right.
oh, I was awful. I'm so sorry, Mom,
The thing is, none of my kids have kids yet.
It'll happen.
So
watch it happen. They'll just like feel so bad one Christmas, and you'll be like, for what? And you'll be like, I'm so sorry. You'll be like, for what? You'll be like, for all the bad things I ever said during Christmas. Like, okay, yeah, you have kids now. You get it. It's tough.
Right. Know? So that Christmas, they have that memory, but they don't understand how unappreciated in that moment I felt and how many strings I had to pull. I think I maxed out credit cards. I took out loans, like trying to get them everything they wanted for Christmas.
Everything.
And my ex was all over me, telling me to get the kids over to his house at a certain time that day so he could do Christmas with them too. So we needed to start opening presents, and
it was not on their time frame at that point.
No. And I was so stressed out, and I wasn't looking forward to spending the second half of Christmas Day by myself. It was just a really shitty day. And I let it get that way because I didn't, accept help. It was just a bad situation. And I know when they have kids, they'll understand that. But it's something I still feel bad for to this day, because they all remember
we have the guilt, because it's like, even if your blow up is validated on every level, we still feel bad because we blew up our kids on Christmas morning, and you'll always remember it because they bring it up like a joke, but you're like, secretly, you're like, please don't bring it up.
Yeah. It was Colin that had come to tell me that they wanted to sleep in. And so he witnessed the blow up. So he brings it up at the holidays all the time. And now that he's 25, right, guys? So I'm not picking on a kid. I'm not bullying him. I bring up a office Christmas party we went to for his dad, who had a new job. And we went to this office Christmas party at his boss's house. And we were trying to present the image of the perfect family, even though I think by that time we weren't really getting along that well. Colin had chocolate covered strawberries for the first time ever at that holiday party. And he thought they were the greatest thing. Well, and he proceeded to eat them, all of them. And then he got violently ill because that was the only thing he had ate was sparkling apple cider and chocolate covered strawberries. And he proceeded to throw up all over my ex's boss's house. And
oh man, you're like, yeah, this is life.
He's like, Mom, remember that time? And he has exaggerated that story
for story.
Yeah, he's exaggerated the story of me losing my temper to that I threw the plate at his head. No, I did not. He's, they build it.
The things we remember as children.
Yeah, he's rewriting history. I threw the plate down, but he says I threw it at his head, whatever. But whenever he says that, I say, oh yeah, but remember that time that you embarrassed your dad at his boss's house by throwing up all over their white carpet, chocolate covered strawberries? Remember that? I literally carried him out like this, and he was throwing up a trail, and then in their driveway, all the chocolate covered strawberries.
Like a cartoon person.
Yes. Yes. It was that.
Where you can draw them throwing up for however long and it won't matter because it's not real.
Now, I mean, you probably remember this, but he has an issue with that.
No, he does. He has to I remember he would wear these bracelets to help him with sickness.
Nausea.
Yeah. No, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Also chocolate covered strawberries and sparkling cider, although we wish it could be a wholesome meal, is not a wholesome meal.
It's not the only thing to eat for the whole day, that's for sure. But
I would do that now. That would be a problem I'd have now, let's be honest. How often do we get an infamous amount of chocolate covered strawberries in front of us as people? Apocalypse style, just go all out. There's no tomorrow. Do your thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it's a stressful season. So I strongly urge you right now, today, after you finish listening, to write everything down that you know you have going in. Make a separate list for things that you maybe want to do that you haven't done, because sometimes we have, things are open now. I can go visit the snow. I can go do that. You know what I mean? So you may have things on your list that you want to do. And when you see all of them together, you're going to know, your gut's going to tell you already know, but your gut's going to tell you that it's not realistic, and cancel some out, prioritize them, color code them, however you need to do it. And then speak with your loved ones, your family, extended, like you said, and really set a realistic expectation for yourself, because that's the only way. And make sure you carve in self-care time. And even if the self-care time is even like canceling 4 things out, congratulations, you've made room for self-care time. Self-care is honestly, I'm all about I don't like to cancel on people. I don't get invited to a bunch of stuff, but when I've noticed that I didn't need to hand make, my everything, and I could just buy cookie dough like all ready to go. I canceled the idea of having to be a perfect mom at that point, so like cancel some things out that are unrealistic, and it's just going to make room for self-care,
Yeah. And delegate, ask for help. Those are really important things to do. You'd be surprised how much, like you said, people will help if you ask them to and you allow them to.
They've
and
seen
I think
stressed out before. They don't want that.
And I want to touch on this just really briefly, since we covered everything else. If this is a holiday where you, maybe last year was the one, but if this is a holiday where you're going to wake up on Christmas morning alone, maybe for the first time, maybe you've got a custody issue, or maybe your kids now have their own families, or spouses who they need to go to their parents' house, or whatever the issue is. The first time that happens, it's a really emotionally hard thing. It brings back all the memories, and there's a lot of sadness to waking up in your house on Christmas by yourself. So if that's your situation this year, I would encourage you to find outlets and things to do. There's always a lot of volunteer opportunities at Christmas that will keep you busy and occupied. Last year was the first year that, like, really December, there weren't kids in the house for us. And we just, we went off to Sun Valley and enjoyed the snow for a week. And we came back in time for Christmas because the kids were coming home for Christmas, but I didn't, we weren't doing all of the things that we would have typically been doing if the kids were at home, like going to see lights and going to do this and all the events that we go to with our kids at Christmas and all the things that bucket lists, like you talked about. So if this is the year that your kids are away at school or with their other parent or have families of their own, there are a lot of things that you can do and start new traditions with yourself, and that are really important and will carry you for years, because this is something that as our kids become adults, we just kind of have to learn to transition to. And don't be afraid to start something new just for yourself. So that could be a trip, that could be a volunteer thing. That could be just whatever makes your heart feel full, and not to feel that I want to say the word loss, but it's really just a transition.
You're right. Sometimes the stress can come from emptiness of time and a ton of extra time, that you're not used to. Or maybe you had it last year and it's going to happen again this year and you're stressing about it already. That's a really good point.
Yeah. And if maybe you have like another mom friend or someone in the same boat as you, start a little tradition together and have, Christmas morning brunch together or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, or if there's a nice hotel near you, they usually do something really fun on Christmas morning. You can do that. Just whatever is going to make your heart feel full at Christmas, prioritize that, because Christmas is a hard time for a lot of people. If you've lost someone in the last year and you already know that Christmas is going to be difficult for you, I have been there. Megan, I know you have been there. This is a time where you really have to give yourself like some grace and some peace. And you may need to kind of pull back a little bit this Christmas, or you may need to keep yourself busy. And that's something that you decide for yourself. There's no right way to grieve people. It could be even a breakup. So just, have patience with yourself. The holidays bring up a lot of emotions across the board for everyone. People have unresolved stuff from their childhood. People have losses they're dealing with, or breakups, or changes of circumstances.
There's this thing called seasonal depression, apparently, because the time change, like you just naturally start to feel your feelings more during this time of year, whatever, they're heightened more. And so you got to allow yourself to.
My dad has a really hard time with the holidays. Christmas is not a time of joy for him. He's always struggled with it. And there were a few years when my sister and I were busy with our own kids, that he just elected to go camping off grid for Christmas, and just like basically
he prioritized himself.
Yeah. He basically
not his thing.
He basically didn't do Christmas those years. And like, while we were understanding of that, of course, we wished he was with us, but he prioritized his self-care, and he understood what was best for his mental health. And I applaud that. So just do whatever works for you is the basic thing that we're saying.
People may not understand. Be prepared for that. People, and don't feel like you have to fully explain, just like, but do what's right for you,
Yeah, it's okay to tell people, I'm going to try this year and see if this works for me.
Yeah.
And I'd appreciate your support. And that's it. You don't need to dive in. You don't need to do
just like we talked about last time. You don't have to go travel to so-and-so's house if it brings you stress. Maybe write down maybe you're stressing out because you're thinking about what you have coming up, and write that down and think of something new, like, but yeah, just the holidays are stressful, period. Naturally, don't try and find ways around it. It's a tricky.
I just wanted to offer that balance, because a lot of us are stressed because we have way too much to do during the holidays, but there's an equal amount of women who suddenly have much less to do during the holidays because their kids have left. And that is just as hard. Yeah. So I just want to offer that to those people. And there are a lot of things you can do. That there's so many great like adoptive family programs for Christmas. Soup kitchens always need help at Christmas and Thanksgiving. I mean, there's a lot of people, if their kids no longer live at home and they're scattered throughout the country, they can't afford to come home both for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So if there's a holiday where you're going to be alone, like maybe just go volunteer that day. There's so many opportunities, and you won't have to be alone if you want to be around other people. Exactly. There are ways to make that happen.
There are options. You don't
or
have
plan.
To sit.
Yeah, plan a Friendsgiving or plan a Thanksgiving for, college kids in your area that don't have a place to go. There's a lot of options. So, everybody just do whatever you need to do to make it through the holidays is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, just come out the other side half sane, right? On the 26th.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, you guys, thank you for joining us again. We really appreciate all of you who come back week after week, and all of you new listeners too. We appreciate everyone who joins us. So thank you guys so much. If you are enjoying this series, please share with a friend. It means so much to us. The word of mouth is so important for our growth, and we really appreciate that. You can rate and review also wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we just appreciate all of you so much. And if you want to continue this discussion, because this is a pretty heavy topic, you can always go to our Facebook page and join the discussion group. Yep. All right. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. Don't forget to bookmark our site, she'safullonmonet.com, and subscribe to our newsletter. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you're enjoying this podcast, it helps us a lot if you can follow, rate, and review. See y'all next week.